And we look at hate crimes in India with the persecution of minorities in India, and these have been on an increase since the Modi government has come to power. And despite being conciliatory and trying to reassure Muslims, in the 5 years of Modi's first term in power, hate crime against Muslims actually increased, and data shows that 90% of religious hate crimes in the last decade have occurred since Narendra Modi came into power. We've seen viral videos doing the rounds on social media. We see a young man, Muslim man, tied up, bleeding profusely, all over his body, hands folded, and being lynched by a mob that forced him to chant Sri Ram and Jai Hanuman. We've seen 2 days after the attack on this particular person, another Muslim teacher who taught in a religious seminary. He was thrown out of the train. Again, the same thing, the mob starting Jai Sri Ram and Hanuman. In the same week, a cab driver, 25-year-old Faisal Usman Khan, he was beaten up by a group of men at night, barely minutes away from India's celebrated cosmopolitan city, Mumbai, again asking the men to chant exactly the same thing. Now, this clearly has resulted in the U.S. Commission for International Human Rights that have been condemning the lynching of people and also the intolerance that is shown towards Muslim minorities in India by these mobs. And joining us on the line this morning out of India, Umar Shariff, who is a comparative religion scholar based in India. Umar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nice to be here.
Yes,
yeah.
Shukran, Jazakallah khairan so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah.
And just, trying to understand what is happening in India. And I pointed out right up front, 90% of religious hate crimes in the last decade have occurred since Narendra Modi came into power. So there is a direct connection to Modi and to the BJP.
We can agree upon the fact that the crimes against the Dalit community and the Muslims have been openly done in today's time. But at the same time, I must also say that these kind of crimes were happening even before Modi was there in government. In fact, you must be remembering much of what happened in 2013 before Modi came to power in Muzaffarnagar. Muzaffarnagar, that was like the mob enters into a Muslim locality and they just massacre, they just kill a lot of people. Well, that happened during the Congress period. So what I'm trying to say is that mindset of one section of people in India was always there. The fringe element, which was actually hunting down the people just because they are not in line with their mindset or their way of looking at nationalism. And they found a kind of discrimination and they started to attack the people amongst the Dalit community and the Muslim community. So this is something which is there since a long time. In fact, if you go back to 1924 onwards, the thoughts which were built upon the leaders of RSS was the main reason for this kind of hate crimes against the minorities and the downtrodden and the backward class communities. But nevertheless, I must also say one very important thing, that after Modi coming to power, these fringe elements, they kind of found courage within themselves to say that, yes, now we have our leader in power and we can get away with whatever we do. And that's the kind of, courage that they have got during the regime of Modi. But at the same time, the Constitution of India has remained fair for all the people of this country. And even BJP for that matter, or even Modi for that matter, he hasn't made any statement, any instigating statement against the minorities or against the Muslim community or against the, against the Dalits also. So we have to understand what's happening. Is the BJP taking the onus upon itself for whatever is happening now? or is Modi making any deliberative moves for all of these attacks, or is it the mindset of some people who are, garnering courage over the political scenario and trying to make use of the situation? So that's where we need to try to understand the real issue out here.
Well, certainly, but also at the same time, Brother Umar, we are talking about a fringe element, but a fringe element that features very, very prominently, that holds a lot of weight, and it does appear at this point in time that there is no sincere intent to do something about this fringe element who have now, who's taken the law into their own hands and knowing without any fear that we will be prosecuted or we will be held to account for these type of actions.
Yeah. So whenever such crimes are being reported, we also come across the other side of story wherein the culprits or the ones who have perpetrated the law, they are being caught by the police and they are being put to trials, and some very rare cases they have been punished, and some cases they also get bail. So what we understand, still there is hope, but at the same time there is a need for a tactic from the Muslim community and from the Dalit community to ensure that there is safety and protection to their members. So that can be done through the through exercising the law and order situation within the constitution. And whatever is being reported, like for instance, if you see these videos which are being aired and broadcasted, these are things which are done on purpose. If somebody is doing some crime, if it's a riot or something, why would he want to record it and then broadcast? That is so unusual. Why would he want that he is doing the crime and it is being aired by himself? So there is a very planned out endeavor wherein they want to instill a sense of fear in the communities to make them feel kind of insecure, and thereby they are expecting the Muslim community and the Dalit community to come in the open and react. And when the Muslim community or the Dalit community react based on their own whims and by taking law in the hand, then that is the point where things will go out of hand and there can be more massacre against the Muslim and the Dalit community. So the Muslim leadership in India is very much focusing in trying to build in peaceful atmosphere. And whatever the incidents which are being reported, these are all happening in certain areas in certain localities. Like for instance, in the state of Rajasthan and in the state of sometimes in Uttar Pradesh and sometimes in Jharkhand. But if you come down deep south of India, like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka, and you go still further, it's so very peaceful out here. Muslims and the Hindus are almost at peace with each other. We are like, we get to meet each other, we have our greetings, and we do, we have a very good atmosphere out here. And predominantly, it's very good because a lot of literacy is found here, and people are into public domains and mainstream amongst the Muslims. But again, in the north, there are certain skirmishes we come across which are being planned for their own vested interest.
Mm. Now, obviously, Brother Umar, we can't paint the entire Indian population with the same brush. But in many instances, and you correctly pointed it out, and I have been to India, where we've seen people coexist and live very well together. And for someone like yourself, who is a comparative religious scholar, and in terms of religious tolerance, because this is very, very important. Are Muslims targeted because they are Muslim? Are Christians targeted because they are Christian? And this is where the level of intolerance actually comes in to make one religion a dominant religion over the other. And that is the that is a picture that is actually being painted that this is what India wants to become. Ultimately, they want to become a fully fledged Hindu state.
Yeah, it is the narrative which they want to carry forward. They are making ways for Hindu Rashtra, and that's where I want to pitch in with certain tactics because Muslims have to ideologically fight this out. It is not just by strength that we can win over this, this movement of theirs. We must have to go back to the origins of the word Hindu itself. What does it mean by the word Hindu? Hindu, by definition, is an alternative word for Indian, actually, if you want to go by the history of the root word and all that. By the way, the word Hindu itself is given by the Muslims and the Persians of the 8th century. And it happens to be a Persian word, and it is not a word which is coming from Sanskrit or Hindi for that matter. So what we have to take is that we must try to identify what they are saying, and we must use that statements of theirs where there's so much of vacuum in it, because in Hindu Rashtra, when they are saying, it doesn't mean anything. It is not a religious based system that which they want to establish. They want to say we want to bring in Indianness in our system. We want to bring in Indian culture and Indian samskriti, and that's the kind of narrative which is going. Now, when we are reacting, we must ensure that ideologically we must say that we are Muslims by religion, we have Islam as our religion, but we do respect the culture of this land, and we must try to give the the right understanding wherein the word Hindu is not against Islam, and by definition or by the etymology and by the historical references, we can very well say the word Hindu does not denote any religion. As Swami Vivekananda one time said, the word Hindu is a misnomer. The right word would be Vedantin. He said Vedantin. We are Vedantis. We follow the Vedas. So the word Hindu does not exist in the entire four Vedas too. So what we must try to say, we must have very good intellectual debate, use their strength and win over by stronger arguments. Because an ideology can be defeated by another ideology, which can overpower their very futile, ideas.
Well, Brother Umar, Jazakallah khairan so much for that and for your time with us this morning here on Salam Media. We wish you all the best, inshallah. We hope we are able to face with you from time to time to discuss and to give us updates on a regular basis out of that part of the world, because there is a lot of interest here in South Africa with what is taking place in India. But for now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.